This video is a tutorial of the various steps of making artisan sourdough bread. I bake bread nearly every day at home, and here I bring you along on a typical day. If I can bake nutritious, delicious sourdough bread, you can too. You can do this. Hi, I'm Ron, and thanks for clicking on this video. If you're new here, please click the subscribe button and check out my other videos as well. Okay then, come follow along as I begin my day, which usually includes making and baking sourdough bread. One of the first things I do in the morning is feed my starter, which will be used to make sourdough this afternoon. This jar has 40 to 50 grams of starter, which was left over from the previous sourdough recipe. The jar sits on the counter overnight. I store my mixing flour in the fridge. My sourdough recipe calls for 200 grams of starter, so I'm going to add 100 grams of mixing flour and 100 grams of water, which I'll set aside until it doubles in volume, which will take about 4 to 6 hours. While I'm waiting for my starter to rise, I'm going to bake some bread. Today is Monday, and this dough has been in the fridge since Saturday when it was made. Using parchment paper makes it easier getting the dough in and out of the Dutch oven. I pull the dough away from the edge of the banneton to make sure it doesn't stick when I release the dough. Using a razor blade, I'm going to score the dough. Today I'm going to use two different designs. The first one, I'll cut clear across the dough from one side to the other, followed by some small slash marks perpendicular to the main cut. On this second loaf, I'm going to do a triangle where the three lines meet at the top center of the dough. I have two Dutch ovens in the oven. They have been preheating at 450 degrees for about half an hour, so they're very, very hot. These protective gloves allow me to handle the Dutch oven, but I can still feel the heat through the gloves sometimes. The dough will be baked at 450 degrees for 30 minutes with the lid on the Dutch oven, and then I'll take the bread out and bake it without the Dutch oven for 15 more minutes at 400 degrees. The starter that we added flour and water to this morning has more than doubled in volume and is ready to be used to make dough, which we will bake as bread tomorrow or the next day. My recipe calls for 900 grams of flour, 600 grams of water, 200 grams of starter, and 20 grams of salt, and it makes 2 loaves of bread. It's been 30 minutes since the bread went into the oven. Let's check on it. Oh my, look at that bread. It's magic. Back in the oven it's going to go for an additional 15 minutes. Here's the second loaf. Back into the oven it goes. And after 15 more minutes, we have 2 amazing loaves of artisan sourdough bread. This bread was made from dough, which was made 2 days ago. Here's the dough that we made this morning. It started to increase in volume slightly, and while we wait the 4 or 5 hours it takes for it to increase by 25% in volume, we go through a series of stretch and folds. Do about 4, 5, or 6 of these over the course of the 4 or 5 hours of bulk fermentation. Our dough has risen. It's time to shape the dough into 2 rounds. Place them in the fridge to be baked tomorrow or the next day. Here's the starter jar that we added 100 grams of water and 100 grams of flour to this morning, and subsequently removed 200 grams of starter for the dough we made today. With the leftover starter, it will sit on the counter until tomorrow morning when the process is repeated. Thanks for watching this video, and please remember to click the subscribe button.